Hey everybody, Sero Senpai here, and today we're going to be talking Mushoku Tensei Episode 3. And to start us off, basically in this episode, we see Rudy praying to Panties, the most holiest of Panties. I'm pretty sure we all know whose Panties those are. The goddess Roxy herself. And this is might be confusing to some people, might not be to others, but light novel it talked about how Rudy now considers Roxy his goddess because she was the one that gave him that push to, leave the house, to become better, to walk outside and enjoy life and not be a recluse this time around either. And that's exactly why he now prays the Panties every day, every morning, every night for the rest of his life. And that encapsulates Rudy and who he is perfectly, in my opinion. So yeah, after this we get him going outside and deciding to go outside, leave the house by himself without anyone there. He tells his parents like, hey, I'm gonna go outside. His parents of course are happy because they're like, oh wow, Rudy's actually leaving the house now. They were of course thinking he was maybe sickly, but turns out he's not. He was just traumatized. But yeah, after that, he gets to speak from his dad to be a stronger person, telling him that the strong protect the weak, and to bring back two girlfriends, of course, one or two. Of course, he being his mama's boy, trying to get those brownie points. So, like, I'm gonna bring one as beautiful as mom. Mom just loves it too. So yeah, after this, so far as well, following the light novel pretty like concurrently, but together, nothing really deviating so far. But yeah, after this, we get him confronting the three bullies and everything, and Rudy putting his father's words into action. He confronts them, telling them that, hey, you 3 against 1, that's not fair. Pick on someone your own size, basically. Saying that in the opposite direction, though, still counts. He still did it. He still got his word across, of course, and he started using water balls at him and everything. Of course, like he said, it doesn't matter if they don't hit, and he scared them off. And that's where we meet a new friend. A boy named Sylph. And here we get Rudy saying, wow, this boy is pretty damn gorgeous. And hearing Rudy, knowing how he is, the man's like, yo, if I stick with this boy, I can get myself a girlfriend. Because they're all going to be flocking to him. Maybe the ones that won't might flock to Rudy. Knowing Rudy probably won't happen, just how he is. But yeah, after this, we get him helping out himself and everything. Cleaning him up, using his mattress to clean the mud out of his hair, and we get to see basically these ones like how, even though Rudy, we get to see how kind he is in these moments too. And after this is after in the anime. After this meeting, they go to basically the tree area. In the light novel, after this, we basically go to where he lives, to where Sylph lives, and also, something I forgot to mention, Rudy also made sure that Sylph isn't a spurb because of the green hair he has. And since he has green hair, he has to make sure there's no ruby on the forehead. And it turns out, luckily, there wasn't. And also, it also turned out that he was getting bullied because of the hair. The kids were calling him demons and everything. And like Roxy said previously in last episode, demons have a strong prejudice against them because of what the Spurbs did back in the Laplace War. And it sucks about them, really does, even though Sylph is a half-elf. Shouldn't really get a prejudice. I mean, in my opinion, no one should get it, but it's a different world, different things, so they just have to deal with it, sadly. After this, we get to the first skipped content in this episode, where we meet Sylph's father. He's a half-elf, and he's a hunter, and he works at the watchtower. So it's a small detail and everything, how basically he talks to Rudy and everything. He talks about how Paul is incredibly right, that Rudy makes him feel as a father that is inadequate just because it's Rudy. He's like mentally in like 30s or 40s, around that age, so it makes sense that he's older than both of them and everything. And after this, and let me see real quick. And after this, we get to the scene. The anime falls closer to the line at this point, where they play around in the trees and everything, learning how to do magic and stuff. And then Rudy gets home, and Paul's pissed. Paul's telling, why did you hit Samal? Rudy tried to tell his point. Paul's being unreasonable, not paying attention, and trying to tell everything he says is excuse. That's when Rudy and Paul start having that argument and everything. And at this point, he's just losing the argument. And a line out, Rudy pointed out, like, Paul, I'm like a decade older than you, man. Like, you won't be able to win against me. And plus the points that Rudy's pointing out are reasonable too, not being a smart ass either. And after this, they make up, luckily, and they go in. There's something small I skipped, is that we know when we mentioned that Paul never got a chance to say sorry to his father after he ran out. The reason because right after Paul left the house and they had the argument, his father got ill. And knowing anime and how it goes, his father passed away. And the father mentioned before he passed away that his biggest regret was ever telling Paul to leave the house. Just like how Paul was about to tell Rudy this and held back, his father actually did tell Paul that, and Paul, being Paul, left the house and never came back. And sadly, his father passed away. And that's the thing. Can't do anything about that. He can't rewind time. He can't say sorry. He can't, like Paul said, make up with his father anymore. And that's honestly pretty sad and everything. So yeah, basically after the argument, after Paul tells us his story, we get to the part where Rudy and Sylph are under their tree. And this is before that happens though, there's a part that I novel skipped where Rudy was training with the sword, and he was basically training how to augment his sword with wind, with magic. An example being wind, basically clad the sword in the wind magic, he would have sliced things easier and whatnot. Another part that they skip, while Rudy's teaching Sylph about magic and everything, Sylph talked about how she's having struggles with fire magic, and how it's very difficult for her to do it. Sorry, spoiler. But yeah, after this, Rudy talks about how there's basically affinity schools of magic and opposition schools of magic. Affinity schools are just people that they feel more good or comfortable using schools. So someone that has been burned, possibly drowned, fallen in a mud pile, or like anything that hasn't really basically traumatized a person in a certain element, and someone that's more comfortable with those elements, like someone that likes swimming, someone that's probably a blacksmith, someone that basically they do wood chipping, someone that does like they go in the mud and play around and everything. People that are comfortable with those elements will be able to use those elements easier. So earth, wind, fire, water, and whatnot. However, there's also opposition schools of magic, which are schools that basically give the person more trouble. An example is basically Sylph having trouble using fire magic, because even though she says now that she is someone that is not afraid of fire, back when she was younger, when she was 3 years old, she touched a metal poker when it was burning, and it burned her hand. And even though now she says that she's good, she might have that lingering trauma in her heart that prevents her from using fire magic to the fullest max potential. Rudy, of course, can use any magic, so he's good. He's just good and whatnot. After this, we get Rudy teaching Sylph how to use incantationalist magic. Follows pretty much almost the same as the anime. Everything's like pretty good. Light novel follows it. The anime follows the light novel pretty damn close. So nothing really changed. Sylph was being adorable, making the noises, trying to use the incantationalist until she actually did it. And they both celebrated and everything. Then it started pouring and rain and whatnot. And this is when we get to the house scene, which is pretty infamous. And that's when we get to the trouble incident, where Rudy goes to the bathroom with Sylph. Him thinking that they're both boys. They're both guys. I mean, we're friends, bro. You're my homie. All right, let's take a shower. Let's get clean. Well, this ain't our society. You need to save the water and everything. So they try to take a shower. Rudy's telling Rudy, like, hey, Sylph, take off your clothes. It's embarrassing to stay naked here by myself. And then that's when we get the scene where he takes off, not him, but her pants. And there is no Excalibur there. There's no Muramasa. It's just a void of an abyss. And the poor kids, bro. They were both so dumbstruck. Rudy, it was The description in the light novel was amazing. The description in the anime was amazing. They matched it perfectly. How his reactions, like there was no black sword, there was no Excalibur, there was nothing. It was just a surprise, and then of course Paul comes running and everything, and takes Sylph downstairs to get her, like, out of there, and decides to basically clean Rudy with himself and everything. After this, Paul now, when he's taking a shower with Rudy, like basically cleaning each other up, instead of he basically takes his lessons that he learned from the first time he got mad at Rudy, and this time he tries to hear him out. Instead of just being strict and yelling at him and hitting him, now he basically wants to. And they didn't point it out in the anime, but it was implied that he's just going to listen out to Rudy, make sure Rudy tells his side of the story before Paul does anything, and of course proceed from there, which is a pretty smart parenting. Not just laying it on the kid without hearing the story, which is pretty fucking messed up, And after this, we get Paul telling Rudy, just apologize, you have to tell her you're sorry and everything, and then it will all get better. They go downstairs, and that's when Rudy's like, I'm so sorry, Sylph. I thought you were a boy. And then we get Paul's perfect face of saying, yeah, my son might be a little bit dumb. After this, in the anime, we get, after this scene, basically, since it's the anime, the episode's almost over, we get a scene where, of course, he apologizes to Sylph and everything, but there's a part that's skipped, and that's when Rudy talks about his different levels in swordsmanship. And we learn about there being basically his being Rudy's different levels in all types of combat. How Rudy's now an advanced class in earth, water, fire, wind, attack magic, and that he's intermediate at healing and beginner detoxification magic, which is healing magic. He can't do summoning magic because, well, he hasn't learned summoning yet. And another thing that's skipped is that we learned that healing magic also consists of 4 types of magic, which is basically, well, healing magic, which allows the use of healing injuries from beginners using it to close up wounds, and for the more advanced users, regrowing limbs entirely. We learn detoxifying magic, which helps to purge poisons and diseases at higher levels, and it lets people create toxins as well. We learn protection magic, which includes one's defense, and it helps people create barriers, and it's basically also considered support magic because it can increase their metabolism to heal minor wounds and even generate chemicals in the brain to numb your pain. That part's like a double-edged sword because if you numb your pain, you don't know how hurt your body is, and yeah. After this, we get the last type of healing magic, which is basically divine strike magic, and it's magic that is very effective against ghost-type monsters and wicked demons, but they're basically a secret technique that only human priests will know, and not even like the University of Magic or Noah that Roxy talked about teaches it, because that type of magic is a close guarded secret. After this, we also go more in depth, and not in the anime, of course, in the light novel, that you can't do incantationless magic unless you have proper understanding of what the magic does. An example that Rudy gave is that he can't do telekinesis because he just doesn't know how it works. He doesn't know the laws behind it. He doesn't know what makes it so that he can basically lift something up from a distance. That's why if he wants to use that spell, he has to do it with an incantation, because from that, it's basically incantations, in my opinion, are like training wheels. It lets you write the magic out perfectly and use it, while incantationless lets him use it without training wheels. Just bam. An example of that is using basically the water ball. He knows the molecules of water, how it's made, and he knows how to push it, which is basically gravity or wind. And after that, and there's similarity of that is that a way that why he has to use he also has to use healing magic with incantations, because the only thing he knows about healing is that basically the wounds close out over time. The things you learn basically in high school biology class. And he said, of course, if he was a doctor past life, he'll be able to use the magic without incantations in a more precise manner. But since he can't, and since he doesn't know it, he'll have to use incantations for a long time, until he realizes the laws and the rules behind it. After this, we get to basically the last part of the episode where Paul pushes him, like, you got this, Rudy. Apologize to Roxy. Apologize and everything. They very close to the light novel. They fall really close. And they make up and everything. And then, yeah. And then the episode is over and everything. I thought it was a great episode. Like I always say, adaptation wise, adapted it perfectly. Well, not perfectly, adapted it really well. They did skip a few details, of course. Some of them, like I explaining about the different types of healing magic. Basically, let me see what else. Basically, they skipped introducing Sylph's father. But other than that, they covered basically everything. They covered everything else pretty well. Nothing else skipped besides those two major things. But yeah, it's a good episode. Good show. I love it. I'm always gonna say that. We got the new adorable Sylph in the picture now. And all we gotta do is just wait to see what's next. And yeah. So if you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to keep watching more of my content, hit the subscribe and hit the bell. It really helps a lot. If you have anything to say, hit the comment section. I'll be sure to respond the fastest I can. And yeah, thanks for watching. Zero Senpai out.